Most people giving you sales advice on this platform are either trying to sell you something or don't actually work in sales themselves. In this video, I don't have much of a script. I really am just going to talk about my experience working in software sales the last 3 years and my experience promoting from an SDR to an account executive. It's been a wild ride. I've been able to hit my ramping quota as an account executive AE the last 3 quarters, and I'm also going to talk about what it took from just a growth and development standpoint to come in and find success sooner rather than later, and absolutely how you can replicate the same in whatever sales job you may be working in. If you could, it takes 1 second, please hit the like button below. It really helps the channel. I'd appreciate it in the YouTube algorithm, but thank you as well so more people can see this message. When I first started in software sales, I came right out of college, and for those of you wondering, what do you have to major in college to get into software sales? Just get a business degree, start applying to great tech companies, and eventually you'll get your opportunity. By luck, I got into software sales. My friend in college said, hey, I want to become an enterprise software salesman. And I said, okay, that sounds cool. I'm going to follow that path as well. I ended up moving from Ohio to Texas. I started in software sales as an SDR. I found a lot of success as an SDR. It didn't come overnight. It took me months to really get good at cold calling. I made over 40,000 cold calls. If you're interested in my past quota attainment, check me out on LinkedIn. I put all of my performance data on there so that you know I'm legit. Eventually, I promoted from an SDR after 2 years to an account executive. When I first became an account executive, I was incredibly excited. When I previously had promoted to different, more senior roles as an SDR, I was happy for like a couple hours. I would go celebrate, and then all of a sudden I'd come back on Monday and be a little unhappy again and say, okay, what's the chase? What's next? I'm getting paid more money now. Who cares? My number's bigger. What's next? And it's that constant cycle of I'm working so hard, I'm sacrificing how I feel now to chase this goal. I finally get the goal. I get the little carrot. I take a bite, and it doesn't taste quite as good as I thought it would. When I did do that promotion from an SDR to an AE, that was a big deal. That actually elevated my happiness for like a full week. I was pumped up about it because it was one of those things where I worked so hard for it and I didn't actually know if it was gonna happen because it was so hard to do. When I eventually became an account executive, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. I was pretty successful as an SDR relative to many of my peers. So my concern was, will my success translate to an account executive, because it's a different skill set, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then secondly, the first 2 years of my career as an SDR, I never put myself out there. I never made content. I never posted on LinkedIn. I never made YouTube videos. I never tried to tell people how to find more success in their sales jobs. That's when I first started making content. Once I started in the back end of my SDR, the last couple months to when I promoted to an account executive, that's when I started making a lot more content. That's when I made this channel. So anytime you start telling people how to sell better, it naturally puts pressure on you, because if you're not performing, why should I ever tell you how to do better in your sales job? So it created a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety because I felt like I needed to perform. I felt like I had to prove myself. I was new on the team. And I also didn't know if my skills would translate. So when I first came in, I was like a deer in headlights. I naturally leaned on my ability to work really hard. That's one of my superpowers. I work really hard. I wake up early, I start working early, I work throughout the day, minimal breaks, and then work until the evening. That's just what I do. And working hard tends to set you up for success. And there's a great quote that the harder I work, the luckier I get. So if you're in your sales job, if you're in your whatever right now, and you're not quite where you want to be, the quickest change you can make is to simply work harder. That's what you got to do. Put in more hours. And if this takes someone 3 months to do, if you work harder, maybe you do it in 2.5 months, whatever it may be. So once I got in the role, of course I started working hard, but I wasn't very effective. I knew how to do top of the funnel pipeline and prospecting activities, but that's only a part of the role, because as an account executive, you have a quarterly revenue target. You are actually closing deals. You're not just sourcing meetings, generating pipeline. You're now getting that pipeline and working it through the close. I'm still on a ramping number, and fourth quarter 2020 was my first quarter as an account executive. My quota was $7,200, and I closed about, I think, $26,000. So it was roughly, I think, 300% of quota, whatever it was. Q1 2021, my second quarter as an account executive, my quota was $30,000 and I closed $88,000. So that was really exciting. I had a big deal. I made a video talking about it, closing a $50K deal. I was really excited. This quarter, Q2 2022, is my third consecutive quarter hitting my quota as an account executive. My ramping number is $60,000 of net new business closing revenue, and currently I'm sitting at about $75,000 with a little bit left in the pipeline. You gotta wish me luck in the comments below. I have a big deal that I'm working that I really hope I can close. A funny story about this deal, and to bring this full circle, is that in college I applied to different jobs. This particular company that I'm not gonna say the name of, I applied to. I drove from Athens, Ohio, where I went to school in Ohio University, all the way to Columbus to interview with this company. I interviewed and they never called me back. So I'm actually interested in who I met with, because I'm actually working with that company now, trying to sell them a $50,000 deal. So once I sell them the deal, I'm gonna share that story with them. But that's besides the point. In sales, you're gonna get rejected. So I've hit my quota for 3 consecutive quarters. What does that mean? And if you're a new rep, if you're looking to get in sales, how can you replicate similar success? I'd say one of the key learnings is that adaptability and reinventing yourself is really important. Just because you use a certain strategy as an SDR doesn't necessarily mean it's going to correlate to success as an account executive. This is what I've experienced firsthand, because the advice I give a lot of you, because many of you work as SDRs, is, hey, make so many calls that your ears start to bleed. Work really hard, be volume player. Sales is a number game, and sales is a numbers game. But what I'm learning as an account executive is that I need to be more strategic with my efforts. Rather than just making 1,000,000 calls in a day, doesn't make more sense for me to make 20 calls into my top 5 most strategic, highest potential value accounts? And that's what I'm learning on the fly. So I'm trying to adapt my strategy over time, because what you'll see is, as a ramping rep, so my quota next quarter is 109,000, the next quarter 120,000. Once I promote, 150,000. You constantly get a bigger number as soon as you reach a certain skill set, and as soon as you promote, as soon as you hit that target that you've been working so hard for, the number gets bigger and there's more pressure. You need to perform, you need to drive outcomes. And what I've learned is that even when you hit your quota, just because you hit your quota doesn't mean you then get a free pass the next quarter. Sales is all about, what have you done for me recently? And I've started to feel this pressure as the quarter wears on. Even though I've hit my quota, it's what have you done for me recently? You need to constantly be performing. You need to constantly be driving outcomes. And that's one of the challenges with it. And something else I've really struggled with, but also that I'm trying to learn from to make me more successful, is that I'm so attached to these outcomes. I care so much about winning the deals. I want them to go well. I want to close more revenue. And I don't even want to do it just because of the money. It's nice in my head to think, okay, if I close this $20,000 deal, that's $2,000 pop right there in my bank account. But I look at it and I say, you need to follow a certain pattern of hitting your quota early. And I compare this to an athlete. An athlete that comes in the league, you can quickly tell who's real from who needs more development. The people winning Rookie of the Year, the people establishing themselves as the better player on their teams that actually get playing time. You know who is the real deal versus who needs more work. The people who need more work either develop and get into a rotational role player role, or never make it in the league. And it's similar with sales. Once you get in your role, you need to start performing, and there's that pressure to do that. And the point I was trying to say is that in tandem to that, you're going to be working deals that you care about closing. And if you don't close these deals, then you don't get what you want by way of hitting your quota, by way of promotions, by way of acknowledgement, by way of getting paid more. So anytime you lose a deal, it can be heartbreaking. I lost a deal that I had in commit, so I told the business we were going to win it. And I honestly felt like I had a death in the family when I went from thinking I won it to it being lost, and that was devastating. So you learn from that, and you recognize that some will, some won't, who cares, who next. You got to detach yourself from the outcome, similar to cold calling. When you cold call, if you set the meeting, great. If you don't set the meeting, that's fine. Just keep going. It's all about showing up. It's all about showing up each and every day. And that's the final point I'll make that helped me find success in my role as an account executive, hitting quotas. I show up each and every day. I don't take days off. I don't take prolonged vacations. I stay consistent. I put in the work. I make my calls. I find people to call. And I try and learn from other people. The advice I always give to other reps that are asking advice from me is, hey, go meet with the most successful people. Go set up time with the leaders who are doing cool things. Go set up time with the other individual contributors that are performing well, and just say, look, I admire you from afar. What are you doing? How can I be more successful? What do you think helps you stand out? What do you think has made you more successful? Set time up with these people. They'll be flattered, and just by speaking with them, just by hearing their energy, the way they talk, you'll get an idea of what they're doing, and then hopefully you can replicate that in your own role. Overall, as an account executive, that was a long pause. That was kind of weird. I want to say something else, but I don't think anything else really needs to be said. You'll have to learn what works for you. It takes time. You got to be consistent. And especially if you started as an SDR, you are perfectly positioned to come in and perform as an account executive. So thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to hit the like button now if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.